Welcome back. Our next guest is Dr. Chukwuma Kachi, and he joins us via Zoom to discuss debt and illicit fund flow in Nigeria, PPP as viable solution. Good morning, Dr. Kachi. Can you hear us clearly?
Good morning. I can hear you clearly.
All right, thanks for joining us. So let's start from the basics, looking at the topic of discussion. Debt, we understand what it means, but most people don't understand what illicit fund flow means, IFF, as an acronym. So could you explain what exactly illicit fund flow means?
Well, illicit fund flow refers to money earned, transferred, or used illegally that flows across borders. And the illegality comes from different ways. It may be from outright corruption, public officials stealing government fund, embezzlement, bribery, and corruption. It may be from organized crimes, such as human trafficking, drugs, and all whatnot. But whatever it is, it has debilitating effects on the society. Socially, because money meant for social activities will no longer be there. Politically, it discourages investors. Spiritually and otherwise, everything bad is involved. And that is why the entire world came together to be fighting it. It's no longer being fought in isolation, no. It's now fought together by the entire world. So illicit fund simply refers to money illegally earned, transferred, or used that flows across borders. Thank you.
There's this school of thought that alleges that Nigeria's debt profile isn't just because of Nigeria's borrowing, but as a result of illicit fund transfers. How true is this statement, and how bad is or how deep, neck deep is Nigeria into this particular economic menace?
Well, certain things cannot be proved except from the results. And the result we are seeing is that Nigeria is owing trillions, and you can't really see them. This money borrowed, if they were to go to the direction they ought to, you would have seen improvement in Nigeria's lives. The roads are bad, internal roads are very bad. So where did the money go to? Factories have not resumed. For instance, Kaduna Textile Mills used to be the second employer of labor. It is dead. So where did the trillions go into if the trillions did not go into wrong hands? If the trillions went into where they ought to go, definitely we have seen an improvement in Nigeria's economy. But we don't really have improvement in Nigeria's economy, that is the truth. Don't be deceived by PowerPoint presentation, GDP this by this, foreign exchange, all those kind of PowerPoint presentation. No. Some of us did economics in secondary school, and we are told it should reflect in the economy. And those of us who were there in the days of MIR, I was in Eastern Nigeria, some others were in Western Nigeria, where was somewhere in the north, and things like that. The economy reflected in the food prices. I remember in Enugu those days, Gary became so cheap, 48 cost for a shilling. Eggs were in excess, and you will see it flowing. Maize, corn, all over the place. So if truly this money has been used the way it ought to be used, it should reflect on the food on the table of people, not on PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
With an energy expert, and we're discussing Nigeria at 65 and our energy journey so far. And he alluded to the fact that there are so many ugly incidents, as regards our energy, sector. And he did say that in order to mitigate these challenges, Nigeria has to put the private sector on the driver's seat. Now, talking about PPP, if an expert in energy feels that PPP is the way to go, how exactly is public-private partnership the way to alleviating this issue with debt and illicit fund flow in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. It has been shown that the government setup is not set up to achieve results in terms of projects. There is what is called organogram. That is the way an organization is set up. You have functional organogram, you have projectized organogram, then you have a hybrid. Government is functional. Government is not meant for projects. Therefore, there's no way government ministries, MDAs, can drive projects successfully, or other ministries, because the departments and agencies can be created and have a projectized organogram. Now, the private sector has incentive to achieve results. The truth is that the government sector does not have the incentive to achieve results in the commercial sector. No matter what a director or permanent secretary does, whether the ministry is moving forward or not, he will get his salary. Nobody, no large number, no what we call it shareholders to check his performance, to compare profits of the previous year with this year's profit. And so there's no incentive. Whether the PAMSEC or director makes savings for government or achieves progress for government, nobody promotes him based on that, unlike in the private sector. And that is why the private sector has to be on the seat. We are not saying that civil servants have no use. Of course, they have their use, but they are not created to achieve commercial results. In strategic management, we have what we call VRIO. It's one of the tools of strategic management. The O refers to organized. That is, you should use a resource where it is best meant to be used. If you use the resource wrongly, you not get results. Just like if you if you come to a hospital and the chief medical director is an engineer, the best professor in engineering, of course, you not achieve results. In the same way, if you make the head of an engineering department the best professor in medicine, you will not achieve any results. In private sector, they ensure that you have round pegs in round holes. And that is why the private sector achieves more in commercial activity. As I said, nobody is condemning the civil service, but they should not do what they are not trained to do. Now, when you come to energy, you also come to private PPP, public-private partnership, where I belong to. We have an association, P3PAN, that is advancing the cause of PPP. Now, every PPP project is essentially defined by three features: the technical requirements, the financial model, and the draft contract. What that means is that every PPP project must serve 4 experts. One is the subject matter expert, in this case, energy experts. 2 is the financial model experts. 3 is the legal expert. Then the 4th is the PPP expert, where our association P3PAN comes in. So to have success, these 4 must work together and in synergy and push the PPP forward. So if you have an expert in energy and there's no financial modeler with him, there's no legal counsel with him, and most importantly, there's no transition advisor with him, that is a PPP expert, we will still be having the problems we're having today in energy. To me, the energy problem can easily be solved if we do the correct thing by getting these experts together. They get the experts in energy, we already have them. Financial modeler, we have them, but I'm not sure they are actually engaged. The legal officers, they're all over the place. We have enough of them. But PPP experts are what is lacking. And that is why our association, P3PAN, has come up to provide a pool of experts for government to draw from. And I can assure you that once government draws from a pool of experts, this issue of energy problem will be over overnight. It will be like a miracle. It's not a rocket science. If it's working in another country, why can't it work in Nigeria? So there are problems that we have not put together the correct combination of experts we are supposed to put together. Thank you.
All right, interesting. You did say something. You said if it works in other countries, why can't it work in Nigeria? And that actually is a good entry point to my next question. Given Nigeria's peculiar challenges with governance and weak institutions, how do you see PPP thriving or becoming viable in the Nigerian context?
Yes, we are weak institutions because we are not making use of association with their ethics. For instance, if you need a PPP expert and you come through our association, definitely that whoever you choose, whoever you select, we stick to our ethos and their ethics. You need an engineer, you pass through the Nigerian Society of Engineers, definitely you will stick to their ethics. But when you select somebody from nowhere, especially based on what we call man no man in Nigeria, the person is not bound by any ethics. He operates the way he feels like, acts the way he feels like. Nobody can control him, especially when he got that appointment through a godfather. But if you ask any of our associations with rules and regulations, Nigerian Society of Engineers, P3PAN, give us experts. They give you 3 or 4 experts. You conduct highly competitive exams, selection process. And at the end, through a fair, economic, competitive, and transparent process, one person is selected. That person will definitely live true to the profession because he knows that he didn't get there through godfatherism. And so, if we want to curb inefficiency, incompetence, we must operate through a fair, economic, competitive, and transparent process to select those who will work for us, whether consultants or contractors. Thank you.
All right, Doctor. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization, the P3PAN? What are your mandates and impacts so far since inauguration?
Thank you very much. PPP actually came into being, recognized by government through an act of parliament, through an act of NAS, the ICRC Act, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission Act, 2005. But they did not really take off till early 2009. In fact, they recruited 2008, late 2008. And since they have taken off, they are limited in advocating, in pushing forward the gospel of PPP. The gospel of PPP is a new gospel. Or rather, we won't say it's a new gospel entirely, but it's an old gospel undergoing revival because it has always existed for years. Zacchaeus of the Bible was a practice of PPP, or service contract. But the new PPP we are talking about actually started in the world in the early 80s, and it got to Nigeria, as I said, 2007. So our association is private-based. Remember that PPP, public-private partnership. Public is the ICRC to regulate, created by government. Private P3 created by us to now combine with ICRC to advance the gospel of PPP. Actually, our core mission is to empower our members, give them an insight, give them confidence about PPP. A knowledge-empowered member is a confident member and is better placed, better positioned to participate more effectively in PPP activities. And so we always organize presentations to deepen the knowledge of our members. And we also have public lectures where we try our best to attract civil servants, public servants from MDAs to have a better understanding of PPP. You know, you have traditional procurement, where the government spends money, then you have PPP, where the private person brings the money. It looks simple, but it's not as simple as that. There has to be a paradigm shift. Government officials are trained to protect the government under traditional procurement, where PPP, where government spends money. They are not trained on how to protect government in a PPP. The result is that they try to protect government using their knowledge of traditional procurement, and it doesn't work. Because if a project is awarded under traditional procurement, it obeys only government laws. But if a project is awarded under PPP, which involves private finance, that project must obey both government law and private law, and the private laws. Unfortunately, civil servants who are not trained in private laws, by private laws, I don't mean the legal definition, but I mean the demands of the market. They don't know the demands of the market. And because they don't know the demands of the market, many of these things don't really work out. And again, in traditional procurement, you have master-servant relationship, so to say, where the government decides on designs, decides on what it wants, pushes it out, contractor bids for it. But in PPP, it's a partnership. The government officials have to be trained to understand that in PPP, you don't just negotiate the deal. You negotiate also the relationship. Without building an early good relationship that will stand the test of time over a long period. Remember that PPP is over a long period, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. The PPP will not pour. So our association is, one of its objectives is to let the government officials know that you need a paradigm shift to operate successfully in a PPP. You need to build relationships with the private sector. You need to sit down with the private sector and discuss. It's not master-servant relationship. It's not take it or leave it. No, they will leave it. And that is what has been affecting PPP in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, Doctor, let's talk about the policy dimensions now. Are there any legislative frameworks or policies around public-private partnership in Nigeria? And if there are, how well are they being implemented?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, there are 6 conditions under PPP, under which a PPP will work. The first is top political commitment, which we have from the president. The next is legal, institutional, and regulatory framework. We have the legal framework, that's the various laws. We have the regulatory framework, the ICRC Act. But unfortunately, the ICRC Act is inadequate. In fact, all over the world, their first PPP Act is always inadequate for obvious reasons. That PPP is into a long term and it's a new way of doing things. So there's no way the first law will be perfect, so to say. The first law will always be too standardized. So there's always an amendment within 2-3 years. Now we have taken to the National Assembly. I said, it's since 2021, if I'm correct. A new PPP bill. I thought everything would have been passed since then. I don't know what is holding it till date. Maybe they don't feel it's important. But it's very important because a lot of inadequacies in the ICRC Act have been taken care of. So I hope if this message gets to them in National Assembly, that they should pass the act quickly. They pass the bill quickly so it becomes an act, and that will help attract investors. But know that you cannot legislate human behavior. The best of the laws will fail in the hands of untrained persons. When we were in Rotary, we were warned that an untrained Rotarian is a dangerous Rotarian. Therefore, an untrained PPP participant is a dangerous PPP participant. No matter the laws, those who are going to participate in PPP industry must be trained. And you see, a PPP project brings together a broad and often fragmented ecosystem. The government, investors, contractors, insurers, lenders, even the public. Each of these people have their own interests, goals, objectives, and timelines. A trained PPP officer, or rather the purpose of our organization in training people, is now to enable those driving the process to do an early alignment of these interests and manage the relationship proactively. If that is not done, this complexity of different interests and objectives and timelines always lead to breakdown and delays. That is why PPP projects that should take 9 months, like when Argentina did its own PPP. Sorry, Chile did its own PPP. 9 months, the roads were there. That is 9 months, the contracts were awarded. 3 years, 3 years, all the roads were there. Trillions of naira. The Nigerians would have been dragging for years because of bureaucratic inertia. When the file gets to the table of a civil servant, because he doesn't know the next step to take, he keeps it there for 3 or 4 months, 6 months, after which he minutes on it in a non-committal way. Because civil service work is by shifting of blame. Handing it to another person, let him take the blame if something goes wrong. So this is where P3PAN comes in. When the civil servant is knowledge empowered, he's also confident and he can take decisions. And I can assure you that whether it is Ministry of Works or Health or whatever, no PPP process will last more than 9 months. And it will come to fruition. Thank you.
All right, so we're clearly out of time, but before we let you go, I have this one question, and I would love for you to handle it or respond to it in 2-3 minute stops. So do you have any success story, any PPP project success story in Nigeria that demonstrates transparency, value for money, and of course, transparency and value for money? Any success story from whatever sector?
There are, but honestly, I have to think hard to remember. I have to think hard. There are, but I have to think hard. Thank you.
Dr. Kachi, did you get my question?
I got your question. I said there are successful PPPs, but I have to think hard to remember. They don't come easily to the head because there are so many failed ones that have taken the position. Bad things take position more than good things in life. It's unfortunate. But in the next program, I will come with successful ones. I'll come with the list of successful ones.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kachi,
thank you,
for your wonderful perspective and insights in the subject matter.
It's been a pleasure.
New Day continues after now. Stay with us.